What flaw do you accept about your significant other that would be a deal breaker for men? Both of us prefer to spend all of our time together. It's not a codependent dysfunctional thing because neither of us gets upset or stressed out if we can't. But we're happiest in each other's company and, given a choice, we'd always choose to be together. The whole pandemic situation hasn't been a problem for us because it's actually allowed us to be together more, as is our preference. However, I understand this doesn't work for most people, but it's always worked for us. My so and I are the same. Quarantine has sucked since we don't live together and are quarantining separately. My husband and I are like that. We aren't distressed when apart, and have traveled without each other for various reasons, and it's fine. But his company is so nice that it always enhances anything. He seems to feel the same. My boyfriend's family refers to us as twins sometimes, because we're like that too. I need huge amounts of alone time even around my friends, but with him it's different. It's a little hard for me to understand why some couples fight so much when they spend all their time together. They don't fully close the tops on jars. How do you tolerate this madness? Stop lifting them by the lid. Don't put the lid on. I don't know if mental illness is a flaw, per se, but I bet into that intense chronic depression would generally be a deal breaker for most. He's truly a lovely person, and when he's happy, it's like the sun comes out. One of my goals is to eventually get him to understand what I see in him. We both know that I'm not his therapist. DW, that's not what's going on. Everything's been shitty these past few months for a variety of reasons, but I keep holding out hope that it'll get better. Even in the time I've known him, he's made some pretty significant improvements. I don't know you, but if a compliment from a stranger means anything, here it comes. What you are doing sounds amazing and you should be proud of yourself. Keep it up. Yorson. I've been depressed my whole adult life and I DK how to break it. I just deal with it. I've never been in a relationship because I'm broken inside. You've given me a little hope. Full stop. Thank you. This really hits home for me because my girlfriend is the same way. She was doing so well and then all this stuff COVID hit and ruined her routines, and it's really affected her mentally, and when she's happy and has her routine she is the best person in the world. Extremely good heart and great vibes, but when the routine stopped she got into this really dark place and I'm slightly concerned for her, being that she won't be able to find a routine for her to get back into. We don't live together yet, so most of our conversations are through text, and when we aren't physically together she's very distant and texting me very little, and I try to get her out of her house as much as I can, but anytime that she isn't the one who wants to get out of the house and see me, she doesn't seem like she's here. I'm really just waiting till she can get herself into some sort of routine again, and hopefully she'll get back to where she was, taking it one day at a time. When she gets stressed she screams. It is horrible. I learned how her mother treated her and understand it a lot more. She already been to therapy once she realized how much it troubles me. That says a lot about her character. She saw a problem and is working on it. Now when she gets stressed and raises her voice, she knows I will just leave the house. I mean no disrespect, just leaving until she calms down. At first, I read when she gets dressed and I was very confused. I did the exact same thing. Same. Very confused. He wore a fedora in one of his senior high school photos. More like a deal maker, WTF. I was worried for a second. I miss the days before fedora meant neckbeard. She doesn't cook. Doesn't bother me since I loved cooking and worked in catering for many years, but might be a deal breaker for some. My boyfriend doesn't cook, and 4 days ago was the first time I ever saw him ingest produce in a year and a half. Poor nutrition is a person's prerogative, but I wish I could cook more things for both of us. What did he eat for a year and a half? Carbs, meat, dairy. Thank God he takes vitamins. With my man, he needs time to think about serious subjects or even minor decisions sometimes, so you can't expect him to give an answer right away. It can be really frustrating. especially when you kind of need an answer right away. I've come to think of it as him being very invested in even the little things in our lives because he cares so much. Because this is how his brain works, I try to give him lead time, or if a decision needs to be made right away, I offer to be the one to make the call, which takes it off his plate altogether. He accommodates my anxieties and quirks, so it's definitely not a one-way street. My husband also has analysis paralysis. Takes him a long time to decide on anything. I really like your take on it. Previously I accepted it as part of who he is. Now that I've reviewing it as being invested, I'll be able to approach things differently. Thanks Reddit stranger. I do that a bit too, and also know I tend to frustrate people when I reply I don't care. Usually when I do that it's either because I know it would take me a while to work out which one I really want, so to spare both of us some time I'll let them make the decision. The other option is, I just truly don't have a preference and leave it up to the other person if they have a slight preference. Happened a lot as a kid when my parents would ask me what shape of pasta I want. I didn't care enough to formulate an opinion and got many a lecture about indecisiveness. For what it's worth, sometimes the other person might not care to, but a decision still needs to be made, and it's not fair to always make someone else choose. I don't know you or what kind of situations you're taking about, so no judgment, but something to keep in mind. He talks a lot. He rambles about everything possible, from the origin of salty licorice to why there are so many irregular verbs in French to his old work experiences to the most minute historical or mythological facts. Sometimes he'll laugh when I'm working. I'll go hum, and he'll talk for 5 minutes straight about some obscure fact he just learned. I love his enthusiasm. I genuinely like his little rants as signs of his boundless intellectual curiosity. I always learn something, and we'll never run out of things to talk about. And besides, I talk a lot too, so we're well matched. I'm him LOL. I literally got told in high school that I'm the person people would go to when bored because I always had weird facts and rambles that kept people entertained. Downside was I had very little real friends because while I was interesting when you were bored I became annoying very fast. That's actually so sweet. He sounds like an amazing person to talk to. He really is. I love him a whole bunch. I've never felt so comfortable with someone before. He makes me incredibly happy. His intense secrecy. He doesn't even keep things secret on purpose. He just doesn't mention things as a default and the result is very, very weird. His whole family is like this. Freakishly unwilling to talk about themselves. He is so secretive that I found out after 7 years together that he has 2 brothers. Not one. Nothing scandalous or anything at all. They talk on the phone once every few months, and when I emailed his brother he wrote back right away to say hi. Seems like a nice normal dude. But I guess since he lives in New Zealand he doesn't come to family gatherings, so I haven't met him. This is par for the course. I found out about a grad degree when we ran into one of his profs at a burrito place. When I asked why he never mentioned his brother, he just said that he would have if I asked. I don't know that how many brothers do you have is a question you should have to ask, but apparently. To be honest, same. Found out he was a qualified scuba instructor 3 years after being married. Finding new things out all the time. To be fair though, we only found out last year he has autism, so it made more sense that he will only answer direct questions. Never thought to ask that one though. He's not deliberately secretive. Just doesn't occur to him to share spontaneously. He's the most loyal person I've ever met, so I never worry. If you don't mind me asking, how did you find out he has autism? We had our son. He just stopped coping. Couldn't process anything well. Having a kid is stressful anyway, but it meant he couldn't mask how overwhelmed life got for him sometimes. Having a kid just brought that out. Our boy was very sick for the first few months of his life too. I googled all the things I was seeing in him, lent towards Asperger's type behaviors. So we set up a meeting with a clinical psychologist for testing, and within the hour he had his diagnosis. He had coped so well in life up to that point to be able to hide how overwhelming life was for him. That not one person had thought anything was up. He's been able to admit how hard he finds life now, and I can help him by taking the weight off a bit. It's a good thing. Hope that helps. My friend's date the other night, I'm still laughing. She told me right after. He was attractive and charming, and they had been on a couple of dates. This time, they go for a walk, have a seat on a bench, and he takes her hand and says, "I wanted to get to know you better before I introduced you to my wife, but we think you would be a wonderful addition to the family." And no, she's pretty sure he wasn't trying to adopt her.